Lily Carter had always preferred the quiet company of trees to people. She lived alone in a small wooden cabin deep in the Olympic Peninsula, where the air smelled of damp moss and cedar, and the only sounds were the wind through the branches and the distant rush of a hidden river. She spent her days studying fungi, strange glowing mushrooms that grew only in the darkest corners of the forest, some so rare they had no name yet. She kept careful notes in a leather-bound journal and took photographs with an old camera that clicked softly like a whisper. One evening, as a thick fog rolled in from the sea, Lily heard something that didn't belong. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't thunder. It was a low, shuddering groan like metal tearing apart, followed by a crash that shook the ground beneath her feet. She froze, her hand still hovering over a patch of bioluminescent mycelium. The sound came from the north beyond Black Bear Ridge. She hesitated. The forest was dangerous at night, wolves, bears, hidden ravines. But curiosity tugged at her like a second heartbeat. She grabbed her raincoat, a flashlight, and her walking stick, then stepped into the mist. The trail was slick with dew. Branches reached for her like fingers. After nearly an hour of careful walking, she found it, a crater in the earth still steaming. Twisted metal jutted from the soil like broken bones. Smoke curled from the wreckage, smelling of ozone and something sweetly metallic like burnt honey. And there, half buried in ferns, was a figure. Lily's breath caught. The woman, if she could be called that, was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. Her hair was silver white, long and tangled with leaves. One leg was pinned beneath a piece of wreckage, and blood, dark and iridescent, soaked her torn trousers. Beside her, coiled tightly, was a creature no bigger than a large dog but unmistakably not of this world. Its body was covered in smooth, overlapping scales that shifted from deep black to violet as it breathed. Wings folded like a bat's trembled slightly, its eyes, wide and golden, locked onto Lily the moment she stepped closer. Lily raised her hands slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, her voice soft. The woman's eyes snapped open. They were the color of storm clouds, sharp and ancient. She tried to sit up, winced, and clutched her leg. "Stay back," she said. Her voice was low, melodic, but edged with pain and warning. "You're hurt," Lily said gently. She took another step. The creature growled, a low rumbling sound that vibrated in Lily's chest but didn't move to attack. "This isn't our way," the woman said sharply, her words precise as if each one cost her something. Lily didn't understand, but she saw the blood, the way the woman's fingers dug into the dirt to keep from crying out. She knelt a few feet away, unzipping her coat. "I'm Lily," she said. "I live nearby. Let me help." "Help is weakness," the woman said, though her voice wavered. "To accept it dishonors the self." "Well, where I come from," Lily replied, pulling a clean cloth from her pocket. "Refusing help when you're bleeding out is just stubborn." Before the woman could protest again, Lily moved quickly. She lifted the piece of metal off the injured leg. It was lighter than it looked, humming faintly, and pressed the cloth to the wound. The woman gasped, her whole body stiffening. For a moment, Lily thought she'd made a terrible mistake. But then something strange happened. The woman's eyes widened, not with anger, but with something like shock. Her breath hitched. The creature beside her stopped growling, its head tilted, golden eyes narrowing as it studied Lily with sudden, intense focus. "You touched me," the woman whispered. "Yeah," Lily said, tying the cloth tightly. "And you're lucky I carry clean rags. That cuts deep." The woman stared at her hands, then at Lily. "No one of your kind has touched a Silthari in over 3,000 of your years." "Silthari," Lily repeated. "Is that what you are?" The woman nodded slowly. "I am Naira, last emissary of the Seventh Spire." She glanced at the dragon-like creature. "This is Kalen. He's beautiful," Lily said without thinking. Kalen blinked, then made a soft clicking sound in his throat, almost like a purr. Naira looked stunned. "He does not respond to strangers." "Maybe he's just tired," Lily said, standing. "You both are, come on. My cabin's not far. You can rest there." "We cannot," Naira said, trying to rise. Her leg buckled instantly, and she fell back with a sharp cry. "Look," Lily said, crouching again. "I don't know what your rules are, but out here, in the rain with that wound, you're going to die, and I'm not letting that happen." Naira studied her face for a long moment. There was no fear in Lily's eyes, no greed, no awe, just quiet determination. It confused her. Among her people, compassion was seen as a flaw, a sign of dependence. Strength meant enduring alone. Yet this small human, with her muddy boots and gentle hands, Offered help without expecting anything in return. Why? Naira asked finally. Because it's the right thing to do, Lily said simply. That answer meant nothing in Siltheri logic, and yet for the first time in centuries, Naira felt something shift inside her, like a door she didn't know existed had creaked open. With Lily's help, she managed to stand, leaning heavily on the human's shoulder. Kalen rose too, stretching his wings once before folding them tight against his body. He stayed close to Naira's side, his tail curling protectively around her leg. The walk back to the cabin was slow. Rain began to fall, soft and cold. Lily kept talking about the forest, the mushrooms, how she'd lived here for 5 years after leaving the city. Naira listened, silent, but her grip on Lily's arm grew less tense with every step. When they reached the cabin, Lily lit the oil lamp and stoked the fire. She brought clean blankets and boiled water. Naira sat stiffly on the wooden bench, watching every move. Kalen curled up near the hearth, his eyes half closed but alert. Lily cleaned the wound properly this time, using antiseptic from her medical kit. Naira flinched but didn't pull away. Your hands are warm, she said quietly. Yours are cold, Lily replied. We do not generate much heat, Naira said. It is efficient. Well, efficiency doesn't keep you from getting hypothermia, Lily said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Naira looked down at the fabric, then at Lily. You do not ask questions. You do not demand answers. You simply act. I figure you'll tell me what I need to know when you're ready, Lily said, sitting across from her. Besides, you crashed in my backyard. That makes you my responsibility, at least for tonight. Kalen lifted his head and let out a soft chuff as if agreeing. Naira's lips twitched, almost a smile. Your species surprises me. We're full of surprises, Lily said, poking the fire. Most of them bad, honestly. But sometimes we get it right. Outside, the wind picked up. Rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers. Inside, the fire crackled, casting long shadows on the walls. For the first time in a very long time, Naira felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in centuries. Safe. And that frightened her more than the crash, more than the wound, more than the enemies she'd left behind in the stars, because safety meant trust. And trust, in her world, was the first step toward betrayal. Yet as she watched Lily stir a pot of soup on the stove, humming softly to herself, Naira realized something else. Maybe her world was wrong. Maybe there was another way. And maybe, just maybe, it started with a human who helped without being asked. The next morning, the air felt different, charged like before a lightning strike. Lily packed a small bag with dried fruit, water, bandages, and her sonic emitter. Naira stood by the door, her silver hair braided tightly, her eyes scanning the sky. Kalen paced nearby, his scales flickering between violet and deep red, a sign of unease. They had to reach Mount Rainier. The Heartstone was their only chance. The path will be watched, Naira said as they stepped into the forest. The Hollow Host do not forget. They do not forgive. Then we'll be quieter than they expect, Lily replied. They moved through the trees like shadows. Lily knew every route, every stream, every hidden trail. She led them along old game paths, avoiding open ground. Naira moved with unnatural grace, barely making a sound. But Lily noticed she still favored her injured leg. Kalen flew low, weaving between branches, his wings folded tight. By midday, they reached the edge of a wide river. The water was fast and cold, fed by mountain snow. On the other side, the land rose sharply into rocky slopes. We cross here, Lily said. As they waded in, the current tugged at their legs. Halfway across, Kalen suddenly hissed. Lily looked up. 3 Hollow Host scouts stood on the far bank, their blank faces turned toward the group. One raised its arm and the limb unfolded into a long whip-like weapon that crackled with dark energy. Run, Naira said. They pushed forward, stumbling on slick stones. A bolt of black energy struck the water just behind them, sending up a plume of steam. Lily slipped, but Naira caught her arm and pulled her up. On the far shore, Kalen landed with a snarl and unleashed a jet of blue flame. It didn't burn like normal fire. It froze the air, encasing the nearest scout in a shell of ice. The other 2 dodged, moving with eerie speed. Lily activated her sonic emitter, aiming it at the riverbank. The ground trembled. Thick roots burst from the soil, wrapping around one scout's legs. Naira drew a slender blade from her belt, made of the same shimmering metal as her ship, and lunged. Her movements were fluid, precise. In 3 swift strikes, the scout fell. The last one backed away, its head tilting as if confused. Then it turned and vanished into the trees. "They're learning," Naira said, breathing hard. "They did not expect resistance from this world." "Good," Lily said, shaking water from her boots. "Let them be surprised." They pressed on, climbing higher into the mountains. The air grew thinner, colder. Snow dusted the rocks. Kalen stayed close now, his body radiating warmth that kept them from shivering. That night they camped in a shallow cave. Lily built a small fire while Naira stared into the distance, her expression unreadable. "Tell me more about your people," Lily said, handing her a cup of hot tea made from pine needles. Naira took it slowly. "The Silthari were not always like this. Long ago, we helped each other. We shared knowledge, stories, pain. But after the Great Schism, the survivors believed that emotion led to weakness, so we cut it out. We became efficient." "Efficient isn't the same as alive," Lily said. "No," Naira agreed. "I am beginning to see that," she looked at Lily. "When you touched my wound, I felt something I had not felt in centuries. Not just pain, but connection, like a thread tying me back to something real." Lily smiled. "That's called being human, or being Silthari," Naira said softly. Kalen curled around them both, his tail forming a protective loop. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark, watching the entrance. The next day, they found the entrance. It was hidden behind a waterfall, deep in a narrow canyon. The rock face was carved with symbols, spirals, stars, and intertwined roots. Lily recognized some of them from the patterns in the oldest fungi she'd studied. "This is it," Naira whispered. They stepped behind the falling water. The cave was dry inside, warm despite the cold outside. The walls pulsed with a soft green light, alive with bioluminescent moss that responded to their presence. At the center of the chamber stood the Heartstone. It was taller than Lily, shaped like a tree trunk split down the middle. One side was smooth crystal, the other covered in living bark. Roots snaked from its base into the earth, vanishing into the mountain itself. Glyphs glowed along its surface, shifting as they watched. "It's waiting," Naira said. "For what? For proof that both our kinds still deserve to exist?" Lily stepped forward. "How do we activate it?" Naira took a deep breath. "Blood from a Silthari, and from a human of unbroken spirit." Lily didn't hesitate. She pulled a small knife from her belt, the same one she used to cut mushroom samples, and sliced her palm. Blood welled up bright red against her skin. "Lily, wait," Naira said. "Once the bond is made, there is no turning back. The Heartstone will awaken the Guardians. It will also send a signal across the stars. The Silthari fleet may come, but so will the Hollow Host. Then let them come," Lily said. "I'm tired of hiding." She pressed her bleeding hand to the bark side of the Heartstone. Nothing happened at first. Then the stone drank her blood. The glyphs flared red. The roots trembled. Naira stepped forward, her own blade in hand. She cut her palm. Her blood was dark, shimmering with silver, and pressed it to the crystal side. The moment their blood touched the stone, the mountain roared, not with sound but with power. The ground shook. The walls of the cave lit up with veins of light that spread outward like lightning. Outside, the waterfall reversed for a moment, flowing upward before crashing down again. Deep beneath the earth, something ancient stirred. Kalen threw back his head and roared, a sound that echoed through the peaks, answered by distant cries from the ocean and the forests. But then Naira gasped. She fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Her skin dimmed. The silver veins faded. "Naira." Lily dropped beside her. "The bond takes energy," Naira whispered. "From both, but I am already weakened." Kalen whined, pressing his head against her shoulder. Lily looked at the Heartstone. The glyphs were still glowing, but slower now. Fading. "No," she said. "Not like this." She remembered something her grandmother once told her, about how the strongest trees share food with the weakest through their roots. Life helps life. She placed her hand back on the stone over her own blood. "Take more," she said. "Take what you need." Warmth rushed from her body into the stone. Her vision blurred. Her legs felt weak. But the glyphs brightened again. Naira's skin began to glow once more. Outside, the sky darkened, not from clouds but from ships. Dozens of them, sleek, silent, shaped like obsidian blades. The Hollow Host had arrived. But then, from the opposite horizon, another fleet appeared, silver and graceful like falling leaves. The true Silthari. They had come. Naira struggled to stand, leaning on Lily. They will demand I surrender you, she said. They will say you are an outsider, a contaminant. Let them try, Lily said, though her voice was weak. Kalen spread his wings, his scales blazing gold. The mountain trembled again, and from the sea massive shapes rose, guardians with shells like islands and eyes like lanterns. In the forest, trees uprooted themselves, walking on roots older than time. The battle for Earth had begun. But in that cave, with blood on the stone and hands clasped tight, two beings from different worlds stood together. Not as alien and human, but as friends, and that, Lily thought as the first explosion lit up the sky, was enough. The elder stood motionless, his silver robes unmoving in the wind. Around them, the sky burned with the last fires of battle. The hollow host dreadnought was breaking apart, its black hull cracking as it fell toward the sea. The Scifi fleet hovered in silence, waiting for a command. Naira did not lower her blade. Kalen stood beside her, wings half spread, golden eyes locked on the elder. Lily stayed close, her hands empty but her stance firm. She had no weapons, no armor, no ancient bloodline, but she had something the Scifi had lost. She had belief. The elder finally spoke. You speak boldly for one so small. Size doesn't matter, Lily said. Intent does. He studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to Nira. You have broken the oldest law. To accept help from another is to admit weakness. To bond with a lesser species is to stain the purity of our line. Purity is not strength, Naira said. It is fear. Fear of change. Fear of connection. We hid behind it for centuries while the galaxy burned. The elder's eyes flickered toward the heartstone, still glowing deep within the mountain. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and strong. The stone answers to her blood, he admitted quietly. That should not be possible. But it is, Lily said. Because Earth isn't just your old project. It's alive, and it chose to fight with us. As if in answer, the ground trembled gently. From the forest below, a great tree, older than any human record, lifted its roots and walked slowly toward the mountain. Vines curled around its trunk like arms. In the distance, whales sang in the ocean, their voices carrying through the water and into the stone itself. The Scifi ships shifted. Some turned their weapons toward the hollow host remnants. Others remained still, caught between orders and doubt. The elder looked at his own hands. We were taught that to need another is to fail. Maybe you were taught wrong, Lily said softly. Naira stepped forward and did something no Scifi had done in thousands of years. She reached into her hair and pulled free the ceremonial braid that marked her as an emissary of the seventh spire. With a sharp tug, she cut it off and let it fall into the snow. I renounce the old ways, she said, her voice clear and strong. Not out of rebellion, but out of truth. Compassion is not weakness. It is the root of courage. And this human, she showed me that. Kalen bowed his head, then let out a low, resonant hum that echoed through the mountain. The sound was not a threat, it was a song. An old one. One the Scifi had not heard since before the schism. The elder closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. You shame me with your clarity, he said to Lily. Then he turned to his fleet. Stand down. The hollow host are finished. Let the Guardians finish what they started. The Scifi ships powered down their weapons. One by one, they formed a protective ring around Earth. Not as conquerors, but as watchers. Below, the last of the hollow host soldiers were swallowed by the forest, pulled into the earth by roots that remembered the first breath of life. The sea calmed. The sky cleared. Silence returned to the mountain. The elder walked to the edge of the peak and looked down at the green world below. We left you to die, he said. And you grew anyway. We did more than grow, Lily said. We cared. He nodded slowly. Then he turned to Nira. You may not return to Silthar. The council will not forgive this. I do not wish to return, Nira said. My place is here, with those who remember how to feel. The elder bowed his head. Then may your path be true. He stepped back onto his ship. The ramp closed. The fleet rose into the sky and vanished into the stars. Lily sank to her knees, exhausted. Her body ached. Her hand throbbed and her mind felt heavy with everything that had happened. But she smiled. Nira knelt beside her. You saved us all. We saved each other, Lily said. Kalen nudged her shoulder gently, his scales warm against her skin. His wing was already healing, new tissue shimmering with faint gold. In the days that followed, they returned to the cabin. The forest welcomed them back like old friends. Mushrooms glowed brighter. Birds sang sweeter. Even the river seemed to laugh as it rushed over the stones. News of the battle spread slowly among humans. Governments scrambled for answers. Scientists found strange energy readings near Mount Rainier, but no one came close. The mountain had become protected not by walls or weapons, but by something deeper. The earth itself guarded its secret. Lily went back to her work, but now she had help. Naira learned to identify fungi, to read the language of the trees, to listen to the wind. Kalen played with river otters and napped in sunbeams, his presence no longer hidden. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the stars, Lily asked, "What happens now?" Naira said, "We build something new. Not Silthari. Not human. But both. A bridge," Lily said. "Yes," Naira agreed. "And you are its first stone." Kalen let out a soft chuff and rested his head in Lily's lap. Far above, the stars watched. And for the first time in a long time, they did not look down with judgment but with hope. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a bandage on a stranger's leg in the rain, can heal more than a wound. It can heal a world. 3 days passed in the quiet rhythm of the cabin. Rain came and went. The forest breathed around them like a sleeping giant. Lily kept to her routine, gathering herbs, checking her mushroom plots, tending the fire. But now she did it with 2 silent guests watching her every move. Naira's leg healed faster than Lily expected. The wound closed within a day, leaving only a faint silver scar that pulsed softly in the dark. Still, Naira refused to walk without support. Not because she needed it, but because moving too freely might mean she'd have to leave. And for reasons she couldn't explain, even to herself, she didn't want to go. Kalen spent most of his time near the window, his golden eyes tracking birds or clouds. Sometimes he'd stretch his wings, filling the small room with the scent of warm stone and ozone. Lily had never seen anything like him. Part lizard, part bird, part something older. He never growled at her anymore. In fact, he seemed to enjoy sitting near her while she worked, his tail occasionally brushing her leg like a cat seeking attention. On the 4th morning, Lily found Naira standing at the edge of the porch staring at the trees. Her silver hair caught the early light, glowing faintly. She looked less like a wounded stranger now and more like something carved from starlight and shadow. "You're feeling better," Lily said, joining her. "My body repairs quickly," Naira replied. "But the mind lags behind." "What do you mean?" Naira hesitated. "In my culture, to receive aid is to admit failure. It means you are not strong enough to survive on your own. We are taught from birth that dependence is death." "That sounds lonely," Lily said. "It is not meant to be lived," Naira said simply. "It is meant to be endured," Lily frowned. Endured by who, the strong or the ones left behind? Naira didn't answer right away. Instead, she pointed to a patch of glowing blue mushrooms near the creek. They are connected, yes." "Yeah," Lily said, surprised. "They're part of a network. One big organism underground. They share nutrients, signals, warnings. If one part is sick, the others help it. And you call this natural, of course," Lily said. "Life helps life. That's how forests survive." Naira was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "Perhaps we were wrong." That night, as they sat by the fire, Naira finally told her story. Her people, the Silthari, were once the gardeners of the galaxy. They traveled from world to world, seeding life where there was none. They shaped oceans, coaxed atmospheres, planted the first cells in barren soil. Earth was one of their earliest projects. They left behind traces, genes in the oldest trees, patterns in the stars, whispers in the deep ocean. But over time, they split. One faction believed young species should be left alone to find their own path. Another believed they should be guided. A third, led by a warlord named Vorath, believed they should be erased if they showed signs of violence or greed. "We thought humanity would destroy itself," Nira said, her voice low. "We watched your wars, your pollution, your hunger for power. We decided you were not worth saving, so we left. And yet here you are," Lily said gently. "Because Vorath was right about one thing," Naira admitted. "Some species do become monsters, but not all. And his answer, total annihilation, is monstrous too." She explained that Vorath's followers called themselves the Hollow Host. They had turned their once noble mission into a crusade of purification. They hunted down worlds with mixed or impure life, burning them clean. Naira and Kalen had been fleeing them for months, carrying the last data core of the true Silthari, proof that compassion was not weakness, but wisdom. "They attacked our ship near the Kuiper Belt," she said. "Kalen fought off 3 hunters while I steered us into the atmosphere. I did not expect to survive. But you did, Lily said. Because someone helped you. Nira looked at her hands. Yes. Just then, Kalen lifted his head sharply. His scales darkened to black. A low hum vibrated in his chest. Lily felt it too. A change in the air. Colder. Heavier. Like the moment before a storm. But wrong. They're here, Nira whispered. Outside, the forest fell silent. No crickets, no owls. Even the wind stopped. Lily grabbed her flashlight and moved to the window. Through the trees she saw them, 3 figures tall and thin, moving without sound. Their bodies were smooth and metallic, but not like machines. More like living armor, shifting and breathing. Their faces were blank, featureless except for 2 dark slits where eyes should be. Hollow host scouts. We can't fight them, Nira said, rising. Not here. Not now, and we don't have to, Lily said, her mind racing. She remembered her research, the way certain fungi responded to sound frequencies. She'd once used a low pulse tone to make a patch of cordyceps release its spores all at once. Maybe. She ran to her workbench and pulled out a small device. A sonic emitter she used to study root communication. It wasn't a weapon, but it could send out targeted vibrations. Kalen, she said, can you make noise a loud, sharp sound? The dragon tilted his head, then opened his mouth and let out a short, piercing shriek that made the windows rattle. Perfect, Lily said, adjusting the emitter. Now get ready. The scouts reached the edge of the clearing. One raised a limb that split open into a cluster of needle-thin blades. Lily switched on the emitter and aimed it at the ground near the nearest scout. She dialed the frequency to match the resonance of the local mycelium, the underground web of fungi that connected the entire forest. For a second, nothing happened. Then the earth trembled. From the soil, thick ropes of glowing mycelium shot upward, wrapping around the scout's legs like living chains. The fungi released a cloud of paralytic spores, harmless to humans, deadly to foreign biology. The scouts staggered, their smooth movements turning jerky, then slow, then still. Kalen leapt through the window in a blur of violet scales, landing between Lily and the frozen enemies. He roared, flames flickering in his throat, but didn't attack. He didn't need to. Nira stared at Lily, stunned. You used the forest. As a weapon. Not a weapon, Lily said, breathing hard. A shield. The fungi protect themselves. I just gave them a reason to wake up. Nira looked from the trapped scouts to the glowing threads in the soil, then back to Lily. You understand life in a way my people forgot. Maybe you just stopped listening, Lily said. Later, after Kalen burned the scouts' bodies to ash and the spores settled back into the earth, Nira sat by the fire again, but this time she didn't sit apart. She sat beside Lily. There is something else you should know, Nira said quietly. Before we left Silthar, the elders hid a failsafe, a device called the Heartstone. It was buried deep beneath this continent, beneath a mountain your people call Rainier. Why here? Because this world was our first success, Nira said, and our greatest regret. The Heartstone can awaken the old defenses, guardians we left behind hidden in the oceans, the caves, the roots of the oldest trees. But it requires a key. What kind of key, Blood? Nira said. From a Silthari, and from a human of unbroken spirit. Lily raised an eyebrow. Unbroken spirit, that sounds dramatic. It means someone who gives without expecting return, Nira said, looking at her. Someone who helps even when it makes no sense. Lily laughed softly. So basically someone stubborn. Yes, Nira said, and this time she smiled. A real smile, small but warm. Like you. Kalen nudged Lily's hand with his snout, his golden eyes gleaming. Outside, the forest slowly returned to life. Crickets chirped. An owl called. The rain began again, gentle and steady. Lily knew the danger wasn't over. The hollow host would send more. Maybe even a ship. But for now, in this small cabin with a wounded alien and her dragon, she felt something she hadn't in years. Purpose and maybe, just maybe, hope. Because sometimes, the smallest act, bandaging a stranger's leg in the rain, could change the fate of worlds. The mountain shook with every step they took. Lily's legs burned. Her breath came in short gasps and her palms still stung from the blood she'd given to the Heartstone. Beside her, Nira moved with stiff determination, her silver eyes fixed on the peak. Kalen flew above them, circling like a storm cloud made of scales and fire. Below, the valley was chaos. The hollow host ships hovered like black knives in the sky. firing beams of dark energy that turned trees to ash and rock to glass. But the Silthari fleet answered with light, beams of pure white that shattered the enemy vessels mid-air. Explosions lit the clouds, painting the sky in colors no human had ever seen. On the ground, the awakened guardians fought with terrifying grace. Great turtle-like beings with moss-covered shells charged through enemy lines, their eyes glowing with ancient power. Vines as thick as trucks lashed out from the forest, pulling hollow host soldiers into the earth. Even the rivers rose, forming watery hands that dragged invaders under. But the hollow host were relentless. They adapted. Their armor shifted to resist fire. Their weapons learned to cut through roots and stone. One of their dreadnoughts, a ship the size of a city, began to descend toward the mountain. "They're targeting the Heartstone," Naira said, her voice tight. "If they destroy it, the Guardians will sleep again." "Then we stop them," Lily said. They reached the summit just as the dreadnought opened its belly. Dozens of drop pods rained down, crashing into the snow. From each, hollow host warriors emerged. Taller now, stronger, their bodies fused with biomechanical armor that pulsed like living metal. Kalen dove from the sky, breathing his blue flame. It froze 3 warriors instantly, but the others raised shields that absorbed the cold. One fired a net of black energy. Kalen twisted mid-air, but the edge of the net grazed his wing. He cried out and crashed into the snow. "Kalen!" Naira ran to him. Lily saw the danger before Naira did. 2 warriors were circling behind her, blades humming with dark power. She grabbed a loose rock and hurled it at the nearest one. It struck its blank face, staggering it for just a second, but that was enough. She activated her sonic emitter, aiming it at the ground beneath the warriors. The frequency was different this time, not for fungi but for ice. The snow beneath their feet hardened, then cracked. One warrior fell into a hidden crevasse. The other turned toward Lily, raising its weapon. Before it could strike, Naira was there. Her blade flashed silver, slicing through the warrior's neck. Black fluid spilled onto the snow, steaming. She helped Kalen up. His wing was torn, but he could still stand. His golden eyes met Lily's, full of pain but also trust. "We cannot hold them off much longer," Naira said. Lily looked at the dreadnought looming above them. Its main cannon was charging, a beam that would vaporize the entire peak. She had one idea. A crazy, desperate idea. "The geothermal vents," she said. "Beneath the mountain. They're unstable. If we can trigger a blowout, it could destroy the Heartstone too," Naira warned. "Or it could give us a chance," Lily said. "Do you trust me?" Naira looked at her, really looked at her. Then she nodded. They ran toward the eastern ridge where steam hissed from cracks in the rock. Lily knew this place. She'd studied it for years. The vents were connected to a massive chamber of superheated water and gas. One strong shock could set it off, but they had to get past the last line of warriors. 5 of them stood guard at the ridge, weapons ready. Kalen growled, but he was too weak to fly. Naira raised her blade, but Lily stopped her. "Wait," she whispered. She remembered the mycelial network again. It wasn't just in the forest. It ran under the mountain too, deep, ancient, and strong. She pulled out her emitter and adjusted the frequency, this time matching the resonance of the deepest fungi, the ones that lived near boiling water. She pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground trembled. From the cracks in the rock, thick cords of glowing mycelium erupted, not to bind, but to burn. They released a cloud of spores that reacted with the steam, creating a flash of intense heat. The warriors staggered back, their armor smoking. "Now!" Lily shouted. Naira charged, her blade a blur. Kalen lunged, using his good wing to knock one warrior off the cliff. Lily threw rocks, used the terrain, dodged and weaved like she'd done her whole life in these woods. In less than a minute, the path was clear. Lily ran to the largest vent, a gaping hole that roared with heat. She set the emitter on the edge, turned it to maximum, and set a timer. "This will cause a chain reaction," she said. "When the pressure builds, it'll blow. But we have to be far away." They turned to run, but a shadow fell over them. The dreadnought's cannon was ready. A beam of black light gathered at its tip, aimed straight at the Heartstone. There was no time. Naira looked at Lily. "Go, I will hold them." "No," Lily said. "We finish this together." Kalen let out a roar that shook the snow from the trees. He spread his wings even though they bled and stepped in front of them. Then Lily saw it, the answer. "The Heartstone," she said. "It's connected to all life here, even the mountain. She grabbed Naira's hand and ran back toward the cave. The dreadnought fired. The black beam tore through the air, but as it neared the peak, the mountain itself reacted. Roots shot up like spears. Stone plates shifted, forming a shield. The beam struck, but it was absorbed, redirected into the earth. The heartstone glowed brighter than ever, and deep below, the geothermal chamber exploded. Steam and rock erupted from the vents in a deafening blast. The force knocked the dreadnought sideways. Fire and boiling water shot into the sky, engulfing the remaining warriors. The shockwave rippled across the land, waking even more guardians from their slumber. On the peak, Lily, Naira, and Kaelin stood together, covered in ash and snow, watching the enemy ship list and burn. But their victory was short-lived. From the sky, a new ship descended, larger, brighter, silent. It bore the mark of the true Silthari. A ramp lowered and figures walked out, tall, regal, their silver robes untouched by battle. At their head was an elder, his face lined with age, his eyes cold. "Naira of the Seventh Spire," he said, his voice echoing without sound. "You have defiled our law. You have bonded with a lesser species. You will surrender the human. She is not of the Covenant." Naira stepped forward, placing herself between the elder and Lily. "She is the reason the Covenant was wrong." The elder's eyes narrowed. "Compassion is decay. Dependence is death. Then let us die," Naira said. "But know this, without her the Heartstone would be silent. Without her the Guardians would sleep. Without her we would have lost." Kaelin growled, his body glowing with heat. Lily stepped up beside Naira. "I didn't help her to be rewarded. I helped because it was right. And if your people can't see that, then maybe you don't deserve to protect anyone." The elder stared at her. For the first time, his certainty flickered. Below, the battle still raged. But on the mountain, a new kind of war began. Not with weapons, but with words, with choices, and Lily knew, no matter what happened next, she had already won. Because she had shown them that strength could be kind, and that was something even the stars had forgotten.